right. Okay, everybody. Hey, welcome. Joel Sabas here, doing a Zoom call hour here. And today I've got a special guest I'm going to be interviewing tonight. It is Jared ReGaspi. I said it right. There you go.
There you go.
ReGaspi. He is with EXP Realty. So, Jared, how's it going, Jared? Good to see you.
Going
Thanks for joining me.
well. Yeah, thank you. You as well. I've been kind of itching to get on camera and everything. I think
Yeah.
anyone that's part of my friends list on Facebook knows that I probably have too much of an obsession with being on camera. So
Right.
haven't been interviewed yet though. So this is going to be kind of like a weird kind of cool experience that I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. Well, it's good. It's basically. I mean, the questions are gonna be like, hey, it's gonna be just straightforward questions. Don't worry.
It's not going to be like, were you on the night of the 14th kind of thing?
Right. Yeah. So I got it. So the first question I got to ask you is how you look so young. How old are you? How old are you, by the way, if I may ask?
I'm 25.
You're 25. Wow.
25. I've been
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so a little bit about me.
Yeah.
I am relatively young, which I think is kind of a blessing and a curse. Once I convince people it's not a problem, it's actually a really big asset for me. But I've been working in a professional setting since I was a teenager.
Okay.
Whenever I got into my late teens, early 20s, I actually worked as a mortician for a good chunk of time. And so really early on, I think I kind of started learning how much more being empathetic can really help build relationships and actually help people genuinely than anything else. And I say that being someone who's really passionate about hard work and someone who's really passionate about, having a good image that you want to uphold and standards. But I think more than anything, I think being empathetic has been a big strong suit that I've had since I was a teenager, regardless what industry I was in. I think we lost him.
Oh, no, I'm still here. My connection might be. I don't know if it's your connection or my connection.
Okay.
Right? It's just really weird for some reason. Okay, so my next
That's
question.
all right.
There we go. My next question is, so you're 25. When did you get into becoming a real estate agent? How old were you when you first started?
It actually wasn't that long ago. And so I made my transition. It's been over a year now by quite a while, but it hasn't been the longest stream of time in the world. But I did admittedly, I kind of worked at my brokerage for free before I was licensed as well. I say worked, but I'm not gonna pretend like it was me doing a whole bunch of really fancy stuff. It was more like grunge work kind of stuff, but it gave me access to things like training, being able to kind of shadow people at open houses and things like that. Can't talk to anyone. You're not allowed to really do much more than say, hi, how are you? Because the moment someone asks something about the home, it's like, get out of the way and you can't say anything. But it gave me the chance to kind of see how these top producers at the time were really doing things and see how different people were kind of implementing different things. And even the small scale stuff that you don't see behind the scenes, all the crummy paperwork and how to organize things and how to kind of make sure your database is organized and or keep everything basically how you will live up to the things that you say you're going to do. And so I'm really glad that I did something like work before. And even though, it's kind of working for free, like I said, it wasn't, because it gave me access to a lot of resources and training that I wouldn't have had otherwise, or at the very least I would have gotten once I was licensed instead of beforehand.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. So when let's see, so you're 25. So let me go back to when you graduated high school. So you're 18,
Okay.
right? Okay. After you graduated from high school, did you go to college? Did you try that? What did you do after high school?
Yeah, so high school, I was really good in high school. I was, all advanced placement classes and stuff by the end of it, which was fun. And so I did get accepted to a really fancy college. It was some Ivy League one over in Rhode Island, and I couldn't afford it. And so that's the moral. Long story short is it was, big chunks of money, and I qualified for just under it for scholarships. And so it kind of hit really hard and was kind of a discouraging thing. And so I had worked at a McDonald's whenever I was in my early teens. And once I finished high school, I stayed there for a while. And so it got really kind of depressing for me for a short period of time there. Depressing for me is I bought way too much comic books, and kind of that's my downward spiral is, you know, spending $300 on comics every month. Not the worst thing in the world, but it's living life without kind of a purpose. You know, I didn't know what track I was on. I didn't know where I was going to go. I had gotten in there for a degree in psychology, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so I mean, I didn't have it. I had taken college classes because of my advanced placement, but beyond that, you know, I didn't do anything. So I went to community college for a short period of time before I ended up going into mortuary sciences and started working at a funeral home. So that's where I had a funeral service in New York, but it was all online stuff. And so it was a lot of hands-on training over in the town that I lived in, with a lot of the logistics training through the classes, and was able to kind of make a really good living for myself off of just kind of, like I said, working in a funeral home and helping families through the grieving process and embalming, and, you know, being there for when people passed away, things like that.
I think I lost you again.
There you go.
No, it's coming out like little bit bits and pieces, but it's okay. No, it's okay. So wow, that's it. That's awesome. That's very interesting. So I guess I should have probably asked you this in the beginning. So you're in Corona, right? Have you lived in Corona your whole life, or are you from here? Are you from this area originally?
So I am from California, so that's been where I've lived most of my life. But I actually lived over in Bakersfield for a really long time. Was born in Porterville, which is basically like a very small version of Bakersfield. But I lived in Bakersfield up until I went into real estate, and so sold my home out there, worked in order to help with that, and then came down here early 2019.
Okay.
And so been kind of cranking away. I got my license and started working kind of in between. I was juggling a few different things. So I worked state agents, and then I worked actually doing things like Uber and Lyft to try to, you know, be somewhere in the middle to where, you know, it wasn't completely erratic, because once, you know, you stop working full-time at a funeral home, it makes it really difficult to kind of keep it going, because similar to real estate, it's a very time demanding type of job. It's actually kind of shocking at how much real estate and funeral service is kind of similar to each other. But yeah, I had to juggle about all three of those things when we moved down here. And so it was a lot of, you know, it was grinding, and it was kind of eating dirt before you can eat caviar kind of stuff. And I mean, I like to think that it's not well.
Wow, Bakersfield, huh? Gets really hot up there, huh? Bakersfield?
Bakersfield's its own thing. We don't miss it necessarily. No, Bakersfield's just it's a very unique type of place to be. And so without going into a whole lot of detail, there was definitely reasons why we left, but we still have family there, so we still go visit plenty. And, you know, we left wanting to make sure that we could leave with good memories instead of just having them all kind of going to becoming bad. So we left with good high spirits, and we, you know, did the cliche, we're moving to Southern California to tackle the world kind of mentality.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, so let's fast forward to what you're doing now. So you are EXP. So
yes.
So tell us a little bit. You know, real estate. You know, is there, you know, right now the housing market. So how's the housing market right now to you? Is it a buyer's market, seller's market? What is it? What is it to you at this point right now? Oh, I don't know if you got that.
Well, and that's something that I kind of love that question, because it's just a beautiful one, because it opens up for a lot of conversation. So thank you for that. It always depends a little bit on where you're asking. And that's something that not everyone kind of realizes, is that it can be extremely hyper local. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. And the reason for that is, especially at the beginning of the year, whenever everything was kind of at a weird stalemate, there was even a period of time where I wasn't allowed to enter homes at all. The best I could do was unlock a door and an inspector could go in. And if someone wanted to buy it, they have to kind of buy it on good faith, and that was about it. And so early 2020 was definitely like a crazy time to be juggling COVID and trying to actually run a business, which I think is probably the same for a lot of business owners, is this huge method of, okay, we have to adapt. But when that goes into like how the housing market is, it kind of showed that some areas, some cities, some towns, some neighborhoods in those cities or towns were drastically different from maybe some of the other ones. And a good example is I have one group of people that are looking to buy over in Victorville, Apple Valley kind of area, and they've gotten pre-approved now. We're juggling it with their wedding. And so it's kind of, their wedding gift is this. And so the only downside is we're juggling it with their wedding. And I'm not going to be the one that says, stop planning your wedding and focus on me. So we're letting them focus on that. But we got to see the fact that over in Victorville, Apple Valley, Hesperia area, it was just insanely buyer's market heavy. There were multiple offers at any given moment. And this is back, in March kind of time frame, whenever we first started getting them pre-approved, first started their process. I had another set of buyers that I had been working with since about February, and they were looking over in Riverside. I had been working with those people, and so we were ready to put offers down in the midst of all this craziness. And so in Victorville, Apple Valley area, you had a situation where it's just buyers all the time and nothing slowing down. If anything, it's getting busier. In Riverside, I got a home that was listed initially for about $825,000, and I got it for $770,000. That's about $50,000 difference, give or take, and it's because nothing was happening. And so it just depended, all Inland Empire-esque type of area, but drastically different type of perspectives depending on where you're looking. Now things have started to kind of become more uniform. Right now, you're seeing a lot of situations where it's very heavily catered to the sellers. So you're seeing a lot of people who were pent up inside or are still pent up inside, and they weren't allowed to go look at homes. They weren't allowed to go do much. And so the moment that the gates were allowed to be opened, people just started flooding in and wanted to start buying, wanted to start looking, wanted to start previewing everything all at once. And so even though now we're starting to kind of reel stuff back a little bit, there's, more restrictions on some things, less restrictions on others, it hasn't affected the housing market yet because you already let the floodgates open. People are already out looking. They already got a little bit of that, the little bit of water in the desert. And so now they don't want to stop. And so for the last couple of months, you've seen things to where you're getting multiple offers on any given listing because you just have an influx of people wanting to look into any given neighborhood.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so, yeah, it makes it interesting. It makes it to where if you're a seller, it makes it to where if you're a seller, you're in a really good position right now. If you're a buyer, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm representing every single buyer in the world. So just make sure that you've got someone who knows how to deal with multiple counters and multiple offers and bidding wars. If it gets that far, just make sure you've got someone who knows how to present these things in a situation where, you're one of 10.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Now, for those that are watching that are right now renters like I am, and I've lived in Corona just since I've been in high school. So it's been about over 20 years since I've lived in Corona. I've seen the whole city just from boom. I mean, the South Corona just was nothing at the time still. And it's now boomed with just a bunch of houses. And it's just crazy right now. And the housing, I've seen the housing, and I remember, kid you not, I used to take the bus to school. I went to Corona High School. Before that, I went to I think Buena Vista. I went to Buena Vista High School for my junior year, and I didn't, of course, parents like, no, you get a job or you can get your own car or take the bus. So I got lazy and took the bus. But anyway, but I remember when, because I lived here so long, Santiago High School, you wasn't there before. They were at a different location, which is now, I think it's Citrus Intermediate off of their mountain. Mountain Gate Park area, right? Well, that before there was intermediate school, that was Santiago High School. So I remember taking the bus route. We had to go to students, drop them off there. And I remember, kid you not, seeing signs. Okay, this is before all that was developed. This was before South Hills Church was built too. It was around that time. And I kid you not, the billboards, the homes, oh my gosh, my connection, I am so sorry. So my, let me read that. So there were, uh, um, was it signs that said at the low 200,000s for, and they're still being built. They weren't built yet. The homes over there weren't built yet. But I remember seeing billboard sign that says homes as low as 200,000. I'm like, are you? I wish there were homes with 200,000 now. I can afford one. I was like, are you kidding me? Now it's ridiculous. It's like 500,000 over 600,000, 700,000 for a home now. Like, man, it's just.
I think the average price for a home in Corona is about 636,000 as of like a day ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And that fluctuates, depending on what area in Corona you're looking at. But yeah, that was the average for I think the city yesterday.
Yeah, that's just crazy. So East where I'm at in Eastville, they're still building more stuff out here. I know the house that I'm renting right now was built back in I think was like the first stages of Eastville. I mean this area of Archibald and Chandler, if you think about that area. And then of course later on you had Limonite built up, and this used to be on dairy farms back then. I mean, my house is sitting on dairy farm right now. And how I know is because I can still smell the cows from the farms from, yeah.
You said it. I didn't say that.
But they're still building more. If you go more like towards the Ontario Ranch area, which, was starting to build I think it was like a couple of years ago. And then now it's just booming over there. So,
well, weren't Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, because I could totally be remembering this, but isn't the Olympics are supposed to be held over in Ontario in one of the upcoming years, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. I had no idea. I'm not sure.
I remember reading an article about that. Not, it's been quite a while now, but I remember reading about it as one of the reasons why they were starting to build so much out there. And it's because of the fact that they're trying to prep for a lot of people wanting to come down and move into the area as a result of that. That's also why, again, I could be remembering this wrong. So if I am, then, delete this part.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But that was also why there was such a huge influx in all of the road work that's on things like the 15 right now, is because they're trying to, from what I remember, they're basically using the funds that they would use for like an evacuation plan, because they're assuming that there's going to be that many people here for things like the Olympics that they need to prepare for before the Olympics happens.
Right. I haven't heard of anything, but you know what? It wouldn't surprise me because what is it? It used to be called the Citizens Bank Arena. What is it called? The Toyota Center, Toyota Arena, I think it's called now. Yeah.
I think so.
So, man, I mean, every time I go to Ontario, it's like, man, I mean, like Corona. Look at Ontario. They got, and look, Victoria Gardens. I mean, like, we need more stuff like that. Okay, now we're getting off the subject now.
Yeah,
I'm talking about another different city. I don't know why now. But you know what? But I wouldn't be surprised, because if you think about the Summer Olympics, it's going to be in LA. They're going to use the facilities over there. But, there's so many things. You can't have everything all in one area. You got to spread it out. So I'm pretty sure they're going to use the Honda Center, of course, in Anaheim. I'm pretty sure there's going to be stuff there. It's going to be happening down there. Let's see what else. Yeah, and then you got the arena in Ontario that, it's just traffic, 3 hours, like 5 hours, like seems like it's going to be half a day if you're coming from LA and going back there. Yeah, I know. So, I wouldn't be surprised, and it's a really nice area. If you go, you got Ontario Mills. Well, they're not open, but unfortunately, but
Yeah.
it's a really nice area down there. So yeah, I
Well, and
wouldn't be surprised.
you've got the airport over there as well, which is, I believe, the fastest growing airport in the world right now. And
Yeah,
so, I mean,
yeah,
that might have slowed down completely because of everything going on in 20. But from, from the last time I checked, the fastest growing airport in the world. And
yeah, yeah.
I mean, you've got a lot of reason for there to be a lot of attention over in that one small part of Southern California.
Exactly. So yeah, and then like I said, and then if we go down South Corona area, there's the Terra. It's called Terramore, right?
Terramore, yeah.
Terra. Okay. So that over there, the building down there too, some more. So and then Indian Truck Trail,
They're
Horse Teeth Canyon.
they're gonna keep going. I guarantee it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's it's just crazy. But and so what are the I think the interest rates right now are, from what I heard, are pretty low right now, right? They're like at 3% or something, 3 or 4%. Now my internet again.
Sorry about that. I couldn't hear what you were
Okay, no,
saying.
I know my internet said to stay. Interest rates right now, what are they going for right now? Are they 3 or 4% at the moment? 4%?
No, they're low right now. So interest rates have been kind of at an all-time low, and they fluctuate pretty
Okay.
frequently. I think they're supposed to change 3 times a day is how frequent lenders tend to check to see what kind of fluctuations they're having.
Okay.
But you're going to see them consistently kind of going lower, at least right now. And so I've seen some people who, with not the greatest credit, still getting something around like 3.25, depending on what they're looking
Wow.
for. And so that's one of the big pluses if you're looking to buy anytime soon, is that as far as interest rates go right now,
Okay.
it's strong in your favor. That's why things like, once, everyone was allowed outside, all those people who couldn't buy, they now have better qualifications to buy than before 2020 started. And so the moment that they were allowed outside to go looking at homes, you have a lot more people that are capable of buying right now.
Wow. And there's different types of programs out there that people can get approved for. I know for me, I'm looking at FHA because I'll be first time home buyer. So in time, but you know, um, you, you know, working on a down payment, that's important. Make sure the credit, keep that. Even though you don't have to have perfect credit, but you might want keep that in good shape too, and things like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Go ahead.
you're
Go ahead.
doing it the right way too. That's the beauty of it. Is I'm probably a really bad real estate agent whenever I say stuff like this, because I'm
Yeah.
kind of the person that will tell you it's a better idea to wait than try to find a reason for right now being the right time.
Yeah.
And you are, though. You're doing it the right way, because there are a lot of people who will buy something that they're not happy with,
Yeah.
and ultimately it makes them leave with a bad taste in their mouth. It makes it to where they're unhappy for a good chunk of time, because now they're trying to just build up the ability to sell it and move somewhere else. And
Yeah.
so if there's a fine line between wanting to buy something so that way you can build equity, and wanting to buy something so that way you can feel like you have your own home instead of living in someone else's. And you're doing it in a way to where when you are ready,
Hmm.
you can hit the ground running, versus people that try to go for once they think it's a good idea and then they fumble their way to the finish line.
Right. Right. So here's a question because I've heard about from other real estate agents as well. There's a home, you purchase a home, and then there's also like condos. People, you could purchase a condo. From what I was told, don't purchase a condo because it's not going to build any equity for you. It's not going to help you in the long run. So, um, would what would be the reason then for anybody to buy something like a condo if they know that it's not going to build them equity, and eventually it's probably just something to start with anyway. They're just going to use it to sell it, but you know from what I was told. So what's your give me some your insights of that as far as purchasing a home and purchasing a condo.
So purchasing a condo is not the worst idea in the world. I wouldn't say it's the best either.
Okay.
They're just kind of different. And so I wouldn't go so far as to say that you wouldn't build equity. You just wouldn't build it quite as fast.
Okay.
But much like anywhere, it also depends on what town you're looking in, and what your time frame for wanting to maybe sell that would be. But ultimately, there are a lot of people who will do something like, if, for instance, I have a lot of people who like to move out of Bakersfield because I know a lot of people there. I don't do transactions in Bakersfield because it's just too far away, but I still keep in touch with friends and family that are out there. They will buy a home out in Bakersfield, and we're talking 200,000 being enough to get you a decent home out there, and they'll buy that, and then they'll build $30,000 of equity over the course of a few years, but then use that to go ahead and either buy something else here while also having other savings along the way alongside that 30,000, or they just use that chunk of change to afford to be able to move somewhere else entirely. And so it depends on what you're wanting to accomplish. And I think that's what it makes it fun, whenever people ask me from a personal experience on, should I buy this condo or should I buy this home? The answer is ultimately it depends. And it depends a lot on what you're wanting to do or what you're wanting to accomplish. And again, it's not that you don't build equity. I've seen one home over in Riverside, and I was helping sell. It was a condo over off of LeBlanc, which is just one of the small little condo areas over off of Arlington. And we worked on getting that sold, and it went well, and yay for that. Awesome. The home next to it, I had a lot of the neighbors come by saying, hey, I think that they're getting ready to sell soon because of X, Y, and Z. Part of the X, Y, and Z is that they no longer lived there. And so there was no way for me to have that communication, but I was able to see how that transaction happened once it started because I was just keeping an eye on that area. Someone, because they didn't live there, they didn't want to put in a lot of work for the home. They didn't put in a lot of time or effort, TLC, any of that. So it was just kind of being sold, not in bad shape, but being sold as is. So someone bought it for about $20,000 less than the home that we were selling, flipped it, made it a lot nicer. And when I say flipped, I don't mean like knocking down walls. It's a condo. You can't do a whole lot, but they renovated the flooring, the countertops, things like that, flipped that, sold it for about $20,000 more than what ours was at. So now there's a $40,000 difference over the course of just a few months of hard work and labor. And so it depends, it depends on what you're wanting to buy. You made a comment about condos that you may rent or people buying things where they buy multiple condos. One thing that's actually really smart is if you're wanting to buy rentals, I highly suggest that people look into things like duplexes, triplexes, and quadplex, however you pronounce it. It's quad on MLS. Fourplex. Yeah. Because you'll buy them for relatively similar amounts because you're buying mainly the property, what's the land underneath that property, and then it's adjusted to account for the fact that you'll have multiple units, but it's not as drastic as buying 4 different homes completely. So I have one person that's over in LA who was wanting to look into rentals, and so I had him looking in Yucca Valley because there was a fourplex over there not too long ago that was $400,000, and it was $1,000 per unit they were renting. And so $4,000 profit every month, obviously gross, not net, but $4,000 profit versus LA where you could buy a $700,000 condo if you're lucky, and you rent that for less than $4,000 a month. And so it made way more sense. So we're keeping our eye out in that area for the next time something like that pops up because we didn't get to it in time. But it's that kind of mentality of it all depends on who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, and then formulating a game plan around that because he was not planning on looking in Yucca Valley, but it made more sense. And not looking to buy a fourplex or a triplex, but for some people it makes sense.
Now, is he gonna? Would he buy it and then use it as he would rent it out for people?
Yeah.
Is that what? Yeah.
Yep. Investment rental income property. People do it pretty frequently. Whenever they're moving and they just don't feel like having to sell, they can make some money along the way. Some people do it intentionally. They'll buy something like a duplex and rent out one unit while they live in the other. And then some people are just like this guy where they're like, hey, I've got a lot of money and I want to make sure that I put it somewhere smart. Where is that? And then you formulate the game plan off of that.
Wow, that's a really good. I never even thought of that. I mean, hey, I'm learning something new every day, Jared. That's awesome.
rental income is even in 2020 where it feels so sketchy, rental income is still one of the safest forms of passive income, which you hear people talk about all the time. It's one of
Right.
the safest forms of passive income that you can get. A good example is, they made sure they paid attention to at that fourplex. One of the reasons why we liked it is everyone there, it was early this year. And like I said, we just got to it too late, but I was talking to the guy about it, and everyone was still paying their rent, and they hadn't missed a payment, and it was still consistent, and all but one of them still had their jobs, and the ones that didn't weren't laid off. They were just on temporary leave collecting the unemployment in order to keep the payment going. And so even though, it's scary right now thinking about rental investments,
Mhm.
they never once missed a payment as a result of that.
Oh, that's nice. That's awesome. It's funny you brought up about duplexes. There's a lot in Corona like that too. If you go like to the Old Town Corona, I actually well, not anymore, but when I was doing food delivery service, and the other day I had to go deliver to this guy in Corona. He was off of East Grand Street. Okay, so the kind of like the East End Circle of Corona, right? And a lot. It's an older, of course. The homes are older, and they probably were built like in the 1940s or maybe earlier than that. I don't know. I mean, just older. And so it said on the notes. It's funny because when I showed up and it looks like a house. It looks like a house, and it has a driveway. It has a big yard, front yard. And if you take a drive around Grand, Grand, because the house is off of Grand, like literally right around. I had to actually park on the side of the street, like make sure no cars hit me, but get out of the car. But so on the notes, because he told me go through the front door, go inside, and go upstairs. I'm like, what? Why would anybody want me to go inside a house? I'm not gonna do. Okay, so I'm like, okay, so I was thinking, should I call this guy? I said, you know what? Okay, I'll just do what he says. I'll just slowly open the door. So I walked up and there was no doorbell. Okay, it was like a red door. There was no doorbell. There was a door that was on the side. It looked like those old doors, like an old wooden door, right? And I'm like, I wonder. Looks like I don't know. Looks like somebody lives there. I don't know. Maybe it's a guest house. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. I go inside, and literally there was a right in front of me. You would think when you walk into a house, you see like the living room, right? Or you'll see something, right? I saw a kid this not. I saw a stair. It was going stairs, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And I look to my right. It says number one, door number one. So I'm like, door number one. I go upstairs. Right in front of me, there's door number 3, door number 4, and door number 5. So I'm like, is this a motel? What is this? So the guy, so I knock on the door. The guy opens the door. He says, and I just asked him, what? This is not a house. Like, no, this is a duplex. Like, I've never been in I've been to a duplex where it's outside, right? The entrance is on the side. But inside, I didn't even know Corona had these. Seriously. I thought this was when you told me like, yeah, this is, I rent, I rent here. I rent the unit here. Then I have my neighbors next to me, and downstairs there's number one. That's another one. Like, wow, crazy. So,
So two things. One thing is, I think the moral of that story is stay safe, Joel, because we'll miss you if you're gone.
Yeah, I know.
But
I
the
want
second
to
thing
get
is,
yeah.
I use my grandmother-in-law as a really good example of doing something smart. So she bought her home. This is over in Bakersfield, so
Yeah.
it's a little different. Just it's a lot different. But this is a universal idea.
Yeah.
She bought a home that had a back house. And so
Okay.
she bought her home and immediately started renting out the back house. They pay their own utilities. I think they share trash, and I think that's about the bulk of what they cover together. And they have access to, they've got their own small little yard, and she's got her big house and everything in the front.
Right.
So she rents that out. Again, this is Bakersfield, so the prices vary quite a bit, but she bought that at a good deal and then was able to rent that out. And so now she spends about $200 on her mortgage every month.
Oh, wow. Wow.
because they paid for 75% of her mortgage. And so keeping in mind, that the mortgages out there are probably a lot different than they are out here, but it's that mentality of, yeah, she bought her home, rented out the back house,
Uh-huh.
and now has them paying 75% of her mortgage every month.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that owner that owns that duplex is making some money, man. He's it's Corona, right? I mean, it's
It's not
Corona.
cheap to live here, that's for sure.
Exactly.
No, it can be
Exactly.
a really smart idea. It's genuinely, but it again, it gets into the idea of what you're wanting to do. Everyone's
Uh-huh.
situation is slightly different, and what they're wanting to accomplish can vary, and so not one solution is going to work for everyone.
Yeah.
And so it's a good thing to kind of see and plan and do what you're doing,
Yeah.
which is prep for what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. Because I mean, I can get anyone approved for a loan. They might have someone coming with a baseball bat for their kneecaps in 6 months, but I can get anyone approved for a loan.
Right.
But unless you want to do it smart, you're going to be in for either trouble or disappointment. And
Right.
that's why it's important to kind of don't rush into things, but also don't drag your feet. There's a middle ground that people should ride, and it's very similar to what you're doing. Make sure that you get everything lined up first. Make sure you do your footwork so that way you can hit the ground running instead of falling once you try to start running.
Right. Exactly. You don't want to get into some, like you said, you don't want to get into something that, you're going to regret later. Like, why did I do this? Why did I should have waited, and I know it's like, me, I'm going to live in like impatient when it comes to stuff. It's like, no, we're not going to wait. We're going to do it right now. I'm not going to wait any longer. But then I've learned my lessons in the times. It's like, you know what? What did I just do? Come on. Like, what did I should have, and
Well,
then I should say, yeah, yeah,
there's two things that I really try to accomplish whenever I'm helping a buyer,
yeah,
and that is to make sure that they get the best deal possible
yeah,
and that they don't miss out on anything.
yeah,
And so you could probably buy a place right now. It might not be the place that you want. You might not be happy there,
yeah,
but then you're going to miss out on a lot. And you may get a good deal because you save some money, but there's a middle ground between the two things. You want to make sure that you get the best deal that you can, but you also want to make sure that you actually get something that you're going to be happy with, that you're not going to look at it in 6 months and go, oh, crap, that was there. And so you have to, it gets into that balancing act that we were talking about. And even with you, where you're saying, I'm impatient sometimes and I really just want to do it. You could do it. You
uh-huh.
just wouldn't be happy. And I
Right.
say that
Yeah.
apologizing to a bunch of real estate agents that may watch this at some point who are now their buyers are like, I don't know if I want to. It's just a matter of, like I said, I come from empathy, and so
Yeah.
if it's not the right time to buy or sell, I'm going to tell you that, and then I just hope that you trusted me for saying that, and that we can stay friends until you're ready. And then
Right.
at the very least, I got a friend out of it, so I'm going to count that as a win. But
Oh,
it really can, it can be a matter of you being happy if you wait 6 months, or you can be okay if you act within 6 weeks. What do you want to do? It's not that big of a difference. And
right.
so I'm in it for the long haul. You'll be my friend forever. Everyone else will be my friend until they're ready. And
Yeah.
so my goal as a real estate agent is never to convince anyone to buy or sell.
Of
It's to
course.
be there for whenever they need it. I'm a
Yeah.
resource to people.
Yeah.
That's why I say, local real estate superhero is I'm an advisor. I can tell you how to sell your home. I can walk you through the process. I can help you buy your home. I can get you the best deal that's possible out there. But I'm not going to convince you that you should buy or sell.
Yeah.
That's up to you. I'm just going to make sure that I'm here and ready and waiting for whenever you are.
There you go. And that's to be honest, that's a true real estate agent right there, guys. Seriously, somebody that is look. I let me give you some advice or give let me teach you some things or whatnot to make make your decision a little bit better. Are you ready? You're not ready. Is it time to wait, or do you want to do it now? um I there's so you know I've always wanted to own. I still want to own. Like I said, I've been renting, and I'm having some issues here with my landlord lately. but you know what? It's the time will come when it comes. So and I speak for everybody that's someday want to own a home too. That your time will come. Um, You know, just what I tell people is when it comes to real estate too, just like you know you said, Jared, is you know, if it's the right time, do it. You know, if it's not the right time, then wait. You know, so it's okay. It's you know, it's you just gotta do what you make what's gonna make you feel um, happy in the long run. Don't do it because you know I'm doing it because I want to do it, and
Well,
and then you never know.
that goes for buyers and sellers too.
Yeah.
It's a good example is I have someone over in Orange County right now that we just got into escrow today, actually. So woohoo for that. But
Yay.
that's a lot of work. It
Right.
was a couple months that we have actually been working together. She moved out to Georgia and
Okay.
then lost the ability to really come back and forth all too easily. And so she's been stuck, and we've been working together to get all of her stuff out there, to get everything clean, to get everything fixed.
Right.
And it's been an uphill battle in order to do something like that. Coincidentally, and I'm not going to say where because I don't want people like looking up at, like names of different agents or anything.
Yeah.
Her neighbor is selling her home as well. Her
Okay.
neighbor has been on the market for 222 days as of today, because I was talking to her and she was like, I just can't believe this, and oh yay. And so we were comparing it to like what we did versus what her neighbor did. And so that's why I don't want to say like this home, but
Yeah. Right.
her neighbor has stuff that if I were their agent, I would recommend that they fix or that they do. And I told her, you know, I can take a lot of credit and I can pretend or act or even really believe that I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I genuinely know that I'm a great real estate agent and I'm great at advising people on what to do. But this was her. She was the one that, as much as, you know, I'm telling her we should do this or we should call these people in order to get this done or this taken care of, she's the one that's been spending the last couple of months alongside me putting in all of this footwork, all of these headaches and this stress that I'm trying to mitigate as much as possible, because she's out in a different state with a different time zone trying to juggle
Yeah.
stuff in California. And you can say like, oh, is the stress worth it? Well, her neighbor's getting ready to hit, you know, 2.5 years right now, and she sold within a month. So it says a lot, because even if you're a buyer and it's a matter of, hey, you need to fix your credit or you need to get a hold of our friends Richard and Allison to have you fix, you know, your savings and get your finances in check, or if you're a seller and it's a matter of, no, you know, if you want to do this and get the most money that you can for your home or even sell it all,
Of course.
we've got to put in some foot traffic, we have to put in some work. So let me help you with that, so that way, if God forbid you're stuck in a different state, you don't have all of this weight on your shoulders. But I did have to tell her that. I had to tell her, you know, this isn't me. You know, I told you what I thought was a good idea. You acted on it.
Right.
And so you're the reason why your house sold. And I can pretend like I'm the coolest person in the world. I'm definitely going to brag about it. But
Right.
I can tell someone what to do, but the decision is theirs. And so it's just a matter of, like I said, I'm not going to ever try to convince people. But I will tell you, hey, I think it's a good idea. You wait. And if you tell me, hey, I think now's the time, then I'm going to bust ass until I get you what you need. But you guys control the decision, whether you're a buyer or a seller. And the thing I used to say a lot, even whenever I worked at a funeral home, especially when I worked at a funeral home, but it's this too, is if there are deadlines or timeframes, I will make sure that everyone's on the same page about those. But beyond that, we work around your schedule, not the other way around.
Perfect. That's it.
I have what I like to call fortune cookie knowledge, where it's like I can throw something that sounds pretty good and you can put it on a t-shirt, but that's about all I got. So.
Oh, it's gonna be on t-shirts. Who wants one? $20.
And I'll tell one completely happy about it.
All right. Well, let's see. It's almost It's about 7:50 right now. So we're coming down to the last 10 minutes. So why don't we do this? Let's see. Let's see. Who we got right now? Oh, we still got, okay. Allison, I'm gonna unmute you. Allison, Richard, and if you guys got any questions for Jared, we got 10 more minutes. So I'm gonna ask to unmute you. Go ahead. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, there you go.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys. Yep.
Okay, I do have a question. Do you only sell in California?
Yes, so I'm only licensed in California. There are some people I know that aren't, and they're licensed in like 6 different states. What I do instead is like I mentioned before with how things can change from just a neighborhood's perspective. So a good example is I live in Horse Thief Canyon over in Temescal Valley. Sycamore Creek is the one that's closest to me, and they've got higher taxes. They have higher price points. It's a give and a take, but they're different. And so I try to stay where I can tell someone I know the answer or I can figure it out. If someone asks me even in California, but let's say in Fresno, hey, how's the market? I have no honest clue other than how the generalized housing market's doing. I can tell you how the housing market's doing as a national whole, or even California to a degree. But if you ask, hey, can you help me price what my home should be at? My next thing is, I know people out in Fresno that can help you with that. And do I get a paycheck off of that? At best, I get, a referral fee for me helping someone else get that. But I'm not going to pretend like I know something that I don't. And unless I want to start building a team that's, across different states, there's no real reason for me to be licensed anywhere than where I'm home.
Yeah, the only reason I was asking is Richard and Joel already knows, you may have seen some of our posts, but depending on the way things sway in November, if you know what I mean, yeah, we may be moving to Texas.
Okay.
So I've been looking at Realtor.com. I've been looking at Zillow, just trying to get a concept of pricing and what size houses and property and, area, how the different areas are different prices per size and things like that, trying to get an idea. We're looking between Dallas, Fort Worth and Frisco. So, we have like an hour, 15-minute drive between there of area.
So in the middle, right?
Yeah, so a couple of the houses that we looked at were EXP. And so when I saw those, I immediately thought of you. Yeah. So that's the goal, right?
Well, right. What I would say in a situation like that is, and it's something that I try to do, because like I said, I want to make sure that if I give you kind of an answer, that it's an answer I can give full-heartedly instead of kind of backtracking in 7 minutes whenever you realized I wasn't telling the truth. What I try to do is I have several different ways that I network, not just with people, but with agents. And so, I have clients that I had not met up until they were ready, but they knew their agent really well that helped them sell over in Texas, like where you guys are going. And so now they're ready to go to California. So who does their agent call? It's me, because I'm the person that they think of, and vice versa. And so it works a lot like that. Like the person that I was talking about that moved to Georgia, it was her agent that reached out to me saying, hey, I know you can help here. This is their situation. She can't get back home. And so I might not know what's going on in Georgia. I have no idea how they're doing out there, but I have people that do. And so I would rather be able to tell you I don't have the answer, but I know how to figure it out, than pretend like I know what the answer is.
Right. Okay. I just thought curious, because I know a lot of times realtors, will split commissions and they'll help, each other out and things like that. So for us, we have to be licensed in every state we work in too. So we completely understand that, because real estate and our business are quite similar when it comes to licensing and commissions and referrals and all that type of stuff. We kind of go side by side along, with real estate agents. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, and I don't think any of us would be happy if you leave. But if you do, we'll get you the answers that you need to have, and get you something that's specific to that hour and 15-minute gap that you've got, anything in between that. And that way, like I said, you get actual solid answers, and you can actually get that game plan that we're talking about formulated and figured out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Any other questions,
I can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
Richard, you got
one
any questions?
thing that I would talk about, just because I know that it's something that I've had a lot of people ask me about, and so it's an answer I know really well, and it's very specific to right now, is, you asked early on how the housing market's doing. I kind of gave you a very in-depth answer, but like I mentioned, if people ask me about Texas, there is a broad answer to how the housing market's doing, and it is doing well. And people are really worried about the idea of it turning at some point and kind of flipping on its head. And I understand that, because people are doing things like missing mortgages, or, they're they're trying to get people to cover their mortgages with this balloon payment coming later. The only thing I would say is one thing to keep in mind. The study that I uploaded this about a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, but I try to keep it, monthly to keep it accurate. But last time I checked, 77% of homeowners that missed their payments so far have at least 20% equity in their home. And so the chances for, if you're a buyer or if you're a seller that's worried about something bad happening to the housing market later, it's not going to get affected all too aggressively, other than it maybe getting a little bit stronger. Because keep in mind that outside of the 2008-2009 crash, this sounds weird, but most recessions actually show a growth in the housing market. So 2008-2009 was kind of caused by the housing market, so we don't really have a good excuse on that. Like, we kind of were the catalyst for all of the stress and turmoil, and bad lending practices kind of got everyone in a crapshoot for way too long, and it was not okay. But shy of the recession that was caused by the housing market, I think it's 3 of the last 4, not counting 2009, 3 of the last 4 recessions saw housing market growth. And not necessarily as a result of the recession, but regardless of it, it continued to grow more. And so there's a lot of people that are scared, and I get that. And there's a lot of people that are worried or unsure or uncertain. It's a matter of finding people that are capable of doing their homework and capable of, being able to give answers and reassure you. And things change, and 2020 has been a big example of you don't always know what's going to come next.
Right.
But at the very least, from what's foreseeable, if that helps alleviate any stress that someone may have, there's a lot of reason for the housing market to not completely fall apart.
I have a statement and a question.
Cool.
After listening to you talk and you making a couple of comments, it started triggering things. The statement is, if you have any of those people that are having problems with balloon payments and mortgages and stuff like that, let's sit down and talk, because we had a balloon payment and we're working that out. So we need to talk. But then also, how do you feel things are going to go? Like, for example, if November takes a flip the wrong direction, people are already moving, people are already leaving. Okay.
Texas has a boom right now. So
yeah,
Texas, Ohio, Arizona, and Nevada are like the 4 that I'm seeing the most.
Yeah, well, back in March, we were looking at houses in Texas as a business investment. We were going to go out, because that's where his corporate offices are. So we were going to look at houses to possibly go out there when we're training and stuff like that. And there was, like, in the area we were looking at, there was like 120 some odd houses for sale in March.
Wow.
Now, as of last night, there was only like 25 houses for sale in that same area, the same areas.
Wow.
And I thought, how did they sell 100 houses in 5 months? You know what I mean? That just seemed
supply and demand right there. That's
Supply
kind of how it is like that. Even in Corona, is you're seeing when people were first started to be allowed outside. I saw homes that were sitting on the market for 5 months, and so we're expecting it to have a cancellation on their listing and it expire because it's just been taking so long. Suddenly they're in escrow because and now in those same areas, the average days on market are like 5 days. And so it's definitely different. But I'm sorry, I didn't let you get to your question.
I mean, if things go, wonky, what do you think it's going to be like to try to sell homes? Like, because we own our home, what, just in your general opinion, I know that you're not a psychic and you can't see the future or anything like that, but, what do you think the chances are that we're going to be able to sell at, at least asking price, if not, a little bit more, if everyone's moving out?
Well, keep in mind, so there are a couple of things that I would like to point out on that. One is the same thing that's happening in Texas is happening here. And so the example I gave of, the homes that had been there for 5 months and now the average days are like 5 days, that's happening all over the Inland Empire. So it would happen for you guys as well. Beyond that, I know your concern is like if people are moving out of California, then who's going to be buying in California? California has, I think, the 4th largest population of any country in the entire world. And that's just as the state by itself. So the population of California is more than the population of Canada. And so you're never going to have a situation where people aren't going to be here or where people aren't going to be buying. The best / worst case scenario you'll find there is you'll have less buyers, but they'll be more qualified. You may see some people who continue to lose their jobs, and so they may not be able to qualify to buy, but the people that kept their jobs, now you know that whoever's putting offers down are solid. And so you should always try to like cross qualify whoever's wanting to buy your home. So that's the piece of advice I'd give you. But the buyer pool is going to become arguably a little bit lower in volume, but higher in quality. And so I'm not worried about there not being people in California, because if anything, there's too many people in California. And so I wouldn't let that.
Gavin's not making it very easy to live in California.
No, it definitely does not. From a seller's perspective, you guys are in a good position, especially if it is something where you're wanting to do it soon, because like I said, I mean, you said, I'm not a psychic, and as much as I try to convince my little sister that I am. But you know how things are going to be in 2022, 2023, we can see the trajectory, but to say that it's going to be here, I can't do. But I can tell you that shy of 2020 pulling its old tricks out of its bag, November is going to be about as strong as it is now. The only caveat to that being the fact that it's a holiday, you know, and we're in the middle of the holidays, and so it changes that. But honestly speaking, standard trends in the market haven't been happening as aggressively this year as it would other years, because this year's not like other years. And so I wouldn't pay attention as much to trends that happened this time last year or what was happening in November as of last year. I would focus a lot on how 2020's impacted things and based off of that. And if you're basing it off of how 2020's been affecting things, then as sellers, you're in a really good spot.
Makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I had people ask me the exact same question about a couple of weeks ago, where they were like, how bad is it? And I was like, well, if you think that having multiple offers in 3 days is really bad, then it's really bad. And I'm asking offers within 6 hours of their home hitting the market. So you're okay. Don't let it freak you out.
It wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have like killed us to have 2 mortgages, you know, but I really don't want to be paying for a house that's sitting empty.
I don't blame you. And
You know?
I don't. The only thing that I would say is, depending on the situation that you're in November, which again, I hope is a situation where you're staying and not going, but God forbid you leave us, you know, I'll cry for about 15 minutes and then I'll come back. And, you know,
We still got Zoom.
there you go.
Exactly.
And you'll still be licensed in California. So it's, you know, but.
And we have family here, so.
There you go. So the only big thing would just be getting that game plan going that we've been talking about. And so worst case scenario is there's some kind of footwork that you put in. But if you guys are thinking about it already, then if you're at that point in November, you're probably not going to need a whole lot of, you know, pre-preparing for something when you've already been pre-preparing for it for the last few months.
Okay.
Cool.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, we're at the top of the hour here. We're going to end this Zoom call. Jared, thank you so much for joining in and doing this interview with me. And again, everybody, Jared ReGaspi with eXp Realty. And thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to go ahead and let me just talk everyone's ears off. So
now, if they want to get a hold of you, can you share your contact information?
Yeah, absolutely. So best way to get a hold of me is standard ways. My phone number is 661-858-8088. So if you see a realtor's phone number with a lot of 8s in it, that's me. My email is just my name @gmail.com. So jaredregaspi@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram with just my name, and you can find me on YouTube with just my name. And almost all of them just have your local real estate superhero on there. I've been growing my LinkedIn account pretty aggressively because I can help other business owners there. But if that's somewhere where you'd want to find me or you feel more comfortable, I'm there as well. So
cool. All right, Jared, thank you so much for joining in. And Allison and Richard, thank you so much, guys. And we're done. All right.
all right. Thank you. Bye.
See you guys.